And as a foreigner, all the way from Melbourne, I'm really liking what I'm hearing here so far this morning. It sounds like you're really making great progress in terms of developing the ecosystem here. And I just sort of pay tribute and acknowledge Cindy and Eric and Peter for your leadership. Eric, it really seems to me that Service One here is a great example of really innovative social enterprise, providing really innovative sort of finance solutions to support social enterprise in the ACT and the region, and so fantastic initiative. Well done. This morning, I'd just like to sort of provide you with a brief sort of snapshot perspective to talk about, from my perspective, the sort of state of social enterprise, here in Australia, and the evolving social enterprise ecosystem. It's a perspective, I suppose, over the last 9 years, when Social Traders was set up. As Cindy was saying, is really Australia's first dedicated sort of specialist social enterprise development organisation based in Melbourne. We were established with joint matching funding from government, from the Victorian State Government, and a private foundation. We were set up as a company, a not-for-profit company, and so we have a board that's been responsible for our for our strategy and governance. But I think Social Traders in many ways has had the opportunity with that sort of funding to play a leadership role around the development of social enterprise in Australia on many fronts. Essentially, in the absence of a clear policy or framework. I like to think that we are making some positive progress. Awareness has been raised. More support and investment is being provided to the sector, but it's been a fairly slow and arduous process. Given the general policy vacuum that has existed. So, as I say, we were established in 2008. We hosted the second Social Enterprise World Forum in Melbourne along with SVA back in 2009. We had about 500 people at that event from around the world in 2009. And just 2 months ago, I attended along with Cindy, I think, and Jennifer was there, the 10th Social Enterprise World Forum in Christchurch with over 1,600 people. From people all around the world, and I think there was close to about 250 Aussies there at that forum. I think an indication of the way in which social enterprise is growing here locally, in Australia, but also internationally. In 2010, Social Traders, in conjunction with Queensland University of Technology, did the first sort of mapping research project of social enterprise in Australia. The Phases report was launched, Finding Australia's Social Enterprise Sector, and that really, was a fairly iconic piece of research. It put social enterprise on the map, and then I suppose since then, Social Traders has been involved in a number of initiatives. We launched our own Social Enterprise Accelerator program back in 2011, which we called the Crunch. It's been running in Victoria now for seven years, and we ran that program out of Sydney for a year. We've developed online tools and resources for social enterprises. As Cindy mentioned, we launched the National Social Enterprise Awards program and conference in 2013. The Good Spender online marketplace with Australia Post around that same time. And more recently, we've ramped up our efforts around the work that we're doing with social enterprises in terms of connecting them up with market opportunities. And we launched a pilot initiative connecting social enterprises up with with government and business buyers in 2015, which has been very successful, which I'll talk a little bit further about. Just last year we did another research project, Phases 2016 report, which I'm going to talk about a little bit this morning, Phases 2016. We did that in conjunction with the Centre for Social Impact at Swinburne University, again, which identified some of the issues and opportunities for social enterprise. And in 2017, after a lot of lobbying and advocacy on our part and others, Victoria launched a social enterprise strategy, the first statewide strategy for social enterprise in Australia, and which I think has been a key milestone. So, over that period of time, we've played a sector development role to raise awareness and inform and develop the policy environment. We believe social enterprises, like all small and medium-sized businesses, their growth can be accelerated, by providing support. And a lot of our work has been around building the investment readiness of social enterprises to start up and grow. And we have also had a small investment portfolio and provided what we refer to as patient capital to social enterprises, particularly at start-up and early stage, in a similar way, I think, to what Service One is doing here in ACT and the region, and combining that patient capital with ongoing sort of business support and coaching at the implementation stage. So I do want to just quickly talk to you about some of the key findings coming out of the phases research that we did with CSI last year. And this report was led by Professor Joe Barraquette, who's a leading sort of research academic on social enterprise here in Australia, in partnership with Social Traders. And this map, this data that's reflected on the image, represents a sample of around 800 social enterprises across over 1,000 locations around Australia, that shows that social enterprises are largely clustered in major metropolitan areas, with the highest, density being in Victoria. It's probably a bit difficult to see this, and I'm happy to, for this presentation, Cindy, to be shared with the delegates. But coming out of the research, it's estimated that there are in the order of 15 to 20,000 social enterprises operating through, metropolitan and rural and regional communities, operating across all industry sectors. Through this research, based on the research, 73% of social enterprises are small businesses, around 23% are medium-sized and 4% are large organisations. So it's very probably similar to the broader Australian business sector, with the majority of social enterprises being SMEs. It's a relatively mature sector. 38% have been in operation for 10 years, with 34% in operation for between 2 to 5 years. In terms of their legal structure, 33%, around a third, are incorporated associations, a third are company limited by guarantee, and 18% are proprietary limited companies. In terms of the industries, sectors in which they're operating, primarily in the services sector, with 24% of those in retail and 23% in healthcare. In terms of the mission of the enterprises, again, it's very diverse, but over 30% of social enterprises set up to provide training and employment opportunities for disadvantaged people. A similar amount, 34%, existing to develop innovative solutions to a range of social cultural and environmental issues. And social enterprises also serve a broad range of beneficiaries. 35% target people with disabilities, a similar amount targeting young people, and 28% targeting disadvantaged women. So it is a very diverse sector. The research that we did back last year also asked social enterprises where should where should we focus effort, and how do we realise the future potential of social enterprise in Australia? And there were four sort of key areas that issues that arose around policy development and the need for all levels of government to champion social enterprise policy. The second area was around this area of building a more cohesive ecosystem and the need for enhanced networking and development opportunities enabled by intermediaries and other players within the social enterprise ecosystem. Exactly the role that's being played here by University of Canberra, Service One and Millhouse. The third area was around finance and the need for appropriate and accessible forms of finance at different stages of social enterprises' life cycle. And the fourth issue was around impact measurement and the need to develop more accessible and comparable impact measurement tools. And so, these issues, I think, are similar to the ones that I think are being addressed here in Canberra. In terms of the biggest opportunity for the growth and future development of social enterprise in Australia coming out of this research, procurement and access to market opportunities for social enterprises was identified as the biggest opportunity. Not surprisingly, like any business, access to markets gives enterprise the revenue that they need to sell their products and services and to generate their social impact. And so that was the key sort of finding, as I say, the biggest opportunity coming back from the sector in relation to that research. In response to that, social enterprise, I suppose, social traders after 9 years of supporting social enterprises to start up and grow and raising awareness and advocating for social enterprise, our organisation is looking to, in terms of where we believe we can achieve most impact with the changed and now more conducive policy environment, along with it recognising that the issue identified by social enterprises as the biggest opportunity is in this procurement area. Our new strategy as an organisation will aim to make social traders over the next 4 to 5 years the leading organisation connecting social enterprises up with these social procurement opportunities and supporting social enterprises, not just in Victoria, but around Australia, to successfully deliver to successfully win and deliver on these contract opportunities. And so by 2021, our goal is really to facilitate in the order of $100 million of social enterprise procurement for social enterprises with the government and private sector, which we believe will create in the order of 1,500 jobs for disadvantaged Australians through creating this community of close to 100 buyers, public sector and private sector buyers, and certifying in the order of 600 social enterprises around the country. So our role will be to identify social enterprise supply opportunities, match social enterprise to buyers, support buyers to implement and social enterprises to deliver on those procurement contracts, and then tracking and reporting on their social procurement impact. We are making sort of good progress in this area. We currently have 18 buyer members, many of the sort of top large companies around Australia, including Australia Post and Boral, John Holland, Mirvac, Lend-Lease, Westpac, Coca-Cola, and other government departments, and we have just over 200 certified social traders enterprises, and we've over the last year facilitated in the order of $20 million of contracts in social procurement for those enterprises. So that is the area over the next 4 or 5 years that we'll be definitely ramping up as an intermediary organisation. Just in terms of wrapping up, my summation is that social enterprise is clearly on the rise here in Australia, as I said earlier. The ecosystem is developing. It's still fragmented, but clearly, in Victoria, I think it's most established. But as I say, even in Victoria, we've only the social enterprise policy that was launched by the government was only earlier this year. We have now got many more intermediaries working to support social enterprises around their business support, running accelerator programs like here in Canberra. So organisations like Social Traders, the Difference Incubator, SVA, the School for Social Entrepreneurs was an organisation that was around for 7 years. It is not operating at the moment, but there are other organisations, the Queensland Social Enterprise Council, and here in the local area, Millhouse and the Canberra Innovation Network are all indications that there's more intermediaries and support available. Philanthropic funding and impact investment has risen markedly over the last 5 or 6 years, which is really important in terms of providing different forms of capital for social enterprise. There has been some public sector investment, clearly from the Victorian government in organisations like Social Traders and providing some grants to social enterprise. At a federal level, it's been more limited. The federal government, the previous federal government, did put $20 million into 3 social enterprise development investment funds back 3 or 4 years ago. But there, as I mentioned earlier, that need for a diversity of finance and diversity of investors is really, I think, an important aspect of any successful and thriving social enterprise ecosystem, and that is certainly evidence of starting to develop here in the ACT. We are getting more private sector engagement with organisations willing to provide business mentors and coaches to social enterprises, and also, as I've said, the private sector opening up their supply chains as buyers for social enterprise goods and services. And we are definitely seeing a more conducive sort of policy environment, particularly in Victoria with the social enterprise strategy. The Victorian government is also looking at a social procurement framework across government, the Queensland government is currently developing a social enterprise policy as well, and we are also the policy environment, is developing, but across Australia it's still patchy, and we still need to work on that environment at sort of state and federal level. And lastly, as I've alluded to, we believe that social procurement market is really starting to open up here in Australia, which will provide some really sort of significant opportunities for social enterprises to access government and private sector contracts. And even at an international level, this year, the launch of a new international standard on sustainable procurement is going to see companies, private sector companies, looking to incorporate sort of social outcomes in their supply chain and procurement policies and processes. So I think they would be, for me, some of the some of the key emerging sort of trends and opportunities that we're seeing for social enterprise here locally in Australia, and overwhelmingly, I think things are on a positive sort of trajectory, but we're certainly making good progress, but a lot of opportunity to continue to build on that, on those foundations. So that is probably from me, and I'm happy to sort of respond to any questions that you may have.